And a huge part of the learning journey for me on Stop and Go was learning how to work with the sun. I think the moment I realized that the vast majority of Stop and Go was going to be shot outside, I immediately downloaded Artemis Pro, which is like the app that
shows you where the sun.
Yeah, that helps you out with the sun. It's Artemis and Helios. I remember listening to like an episode of the Deacons podcast where he was talking about I think he was talking about 1917 something, and just how the Deeks is like.
I heard that they would wait for the clouds to either come or go for whatever they needed. So there's just like hours where they would just be chilling, waiting for the clouds to move or come. And I'm like, that's just crazy. That
gotta work with the sun.
That was what their light source was the sun.
I know, and so I mean that's essentially what we were doing too. Is like God was our gaffer, and we were just kind of like working with what He gave us.
I need a sticker that says that
God is my gaffer. God is my gaffer. Anyway, so I had remembered Deacons talking about how he used Artemis and Helios a lot during his scouts in general, but also particularly like during his scouts for 1917 because they weren't going to be relying so much on the sun. And, I was like, oh, I see myself in that situation right now, So I got Artemis and Helios and, planning around the sun and tracking the sun and, making decisions on, which location we were going to shoot at which time of day was like a huge learning process. And I mean, granted, I made some mistakes. If I had to go do it again, I think I would have shot certain things at different times of day, quite frankly. But again, it was like my first feature and I was learning. And
there was that day we were at the gas station and it was super hot and like all the days before we were outside in the sun.
Yep.
And you had somehow arranged the shots so that we started on the back of the car where the shade was. And then we worked our way inside and then to the front of the car when the shade had actually shifted throughout the day.
Yeah.
And I remember just thinking like, Brenna, like you saved our lives by keeping us in the shade all day. Just by rearranging the shots.
I do remember that.
I thought that was just like the best thing. Like the fact that all we had to do was just like look at it like, hey, what are we shooting? Which direction? What's going to keep us in the shade at what time of day? And I think that was like, it was so simple, but it was like such a lifesaver.
Yeah.
I
think it does make a huge difference to like plan around the sun.
Yeah.
Not even does it make a huge difference, but it's necessary to get the shot you want, But yeah, that gas station in particular, that was definitely like a conscious choice. Because in general, I just always prefer to be backlit. And if not backlit, at least at like a 45. I never want to shoot. I would say I almost never want to shoot sunside, unless it's a stylistic choice or it indicates a shift in tone or something like that. So at the gas station in particular, I, whipped out my Helios and I just said, okay, where's the sun going to be? How can we shoot this so that we will always be backlit? Because when you shoot a scene like that, and it's a pretty lengthy scene with, multiple angles of coverage, and you have to make it look like it was all shot within 5 minutes, right? And how do you keep that consistency? And it's just moving with the sun. And making decisions based on where the sun is going to be. And like the amount of times that we had to do that and make those decisions on Stop and Go, like taught me so much about working with the sun. And it was great. It was a great learning experience.
I think it was one of those things where it was constantly learning, constantly just crushing it.
The post-coloring process was really interesting because we basically had a very like poppy movie, right? And I think my instinct, I mean, if you look at my Instagram, my goodness, like all of my stuff is pretty muted and it's a little more monochromatic in the sense that like it'll all push warm or all push cool, and it's a little more washed out, I would say, intentionally. With this movie, however, we ended up with such poppy, fun colors like in the spaces, their clothes. I mean, Whitney throughout most of the movie was wearing like this fun yellow t-shirt. Her hair was pink. Like, my goodness, there were so many things that were fun about color in the actual spaces. And we were dealing with a lot of greenery, a lot of flora in the movie. And so I think when it came time to actually color grade, my conversations with Ryan Romanovich, the colorist on this film, was, my gut instinct says, let's mute this stuff. Let's make it a little more subdued. But I'm going to go against that. And I'm going to say, let's embrace the color. Let's make it poppy. Let's make it feel comic booky and fun and light. Because I think what we ended up with was moments of like fairly dramatic lighting, moments of, more shadow, more contrast. And then to kind of balance it out, we upped the saturation of our colors. We made them stand out. We kind of embraced, the pinks and the greens and yellows and things that made it feel bright. And so I feel really pleased with the color, and kind of going against my gut instinct, which is very much not what I usually do, but going against my gut instinct to like subdue those colors and instead embrace them. I think it really paid off. Especially with, Whitney's pink hair, the red rocks, making those poppy, I think was really
flats, just that contrast
yes,
of white and
the salt flats,
the yellow, the sun.
Yeah, there were so many moments where I'm like really happy that we went ahead and made those colors pop, and embrace them rather than trying to subdue them.
No, for sure. I definitely feel like it helps too, like when you're going from like the big grass fields to the red rocks to the salt flats, like it kind of, because it is a road trip. You know, it helps you kind of feel like they've seen all these different places across the country. When in all reality, it was all shot here in Utah.
Yes, exactly. So. It was all shot in Utah, but it doesn't feel that way.
No.
And I think you're right. I think the way we treated the colors like really helped with that.
Yeah. It helps you feel like you're visiting new places.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we're essentially moving from desert, like they're moving from a more desert locale to something a little bit greener. I mean, Eastern Washington isn't necessarily as green as Western Washington, and we kind of embrace that. But choosing spaces that progressed into more greenery, and then allowing those greens to pop was, I think, a really it was a good decision as far as their progression and their journey. And then, once they actually arrive at the nursing home, it's like all greens, it's forest, it's embracing those colors and those spaces. And I think it worked out well.
Yeah, I liked it.
Even though it was all shot in a desert. You would never know.